start off, I want to introduce to you, many of you already know, Karen Werner, who's a former SAC board chair who started this whole program. So she's going to talk a little bit about regional gym. Come on up, Karen.
Well, I may have started the program, but trust me, an idea is nowhere without implementation. And I was very, very fortunate to have a board that supported the idea and took it up and has kept it running all these years. This is the 11th regional gym that we have had, and I must say they just keep getting better and better. And I'm so pleased to be able to honor Jean today and to have all of you here as well. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the regional gym program. One of the things we wanted to do was really make it regional, not Berkeley and Oakland, but we wanted to make it northern and southern, and in even years, a storyteller from Northern California will be honored, and in odd years, it will be from Southern California. Any of you who are SAC members can nominate a regional gym for the coming year. And in order to do that, you need to think about more than just a good storyteller. You need to think about people who support storytelling, who bring it into the community, who honor the community. And it's really important, I think, to all of us who have been around and watching the regional gyms, is that regional gyms, it exemplifies service as well as storytelling. And that's very important, I think, for us to continue. When you nominate a regional gym person, you also need to think about the reasons that that person, what they have done. And it's important to get some support from other members. And you can, Marilyn McPhee is going to contact, and it really goes without saying that they will take your suggestions seriously and make a good decision. So the aim of SAC, as far as regional gyms go, is to provide a venue, a platform for folks that may have not had a platform that, my gosh, you get to stand up here and tell a story as long as you want. That's like heaven. And generally it's okay, 5 minutes, okay, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, oh, you're wrong. But that's not like this. We want our regional gyms to take all the time that they need and to really have a good time along with us. I wanted to tell you too that we started out our regional gym with giving the honor to Catherine Farrelly. Most of you knew Catherine. She's no longer with us, but she was such a grand storyteller, and we just loved having her be the first regional gym. Followed by Catherine was Kurt Waller. I think he's been up here before. Tim Araneta, which we adore. Woo! Yeah. No kidding. Marilyn McPhee, who I mentioned, BZ Smith, who's up in, I think she's still up in Sonora. Yeah. Barbara Clark, and as we speak, one of our regional gyms. Michael McCarty and Joyce Swift, who's not here today, but very active with us, and Dixie, and today, Jean Ellisen. So without further ado, I will send you over to our next speaker. Thank you.
And just a comment, if you have a Southern California person to nominate, next year is Southern California, so please share that with Marilyn McPhee. But I do want to say for this year, last year when we were talking and so on, nominations kept coming in, it's like, duh, Gene Ellisen. So we're so excited to have this happen today. So Gene, I'm gonna ask you to come forward, we have a few little things for you.
Oh, but I'm so shy.
I know. So first I want to give you this.
Oh my goodness, that's a good picture of me.
It says, Storytelling Association of California presents the 2024 Regional Gem Award to Gene Ellisen. Thank you, Gene, for your lifetime of storytelling, your colorful retelling of tales from your storied childhood, as well as myths, legends, and folk tales have delighted generations. The Storytelling Association of California appreciates your passion in helping others find their own voice through storytelling and your service as a former SAC board member and a long-time volunteer with the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. Gratefully presented on March 9, 2024 at the North Branch of the Berkeley Library. Here it is. There it is. Then we have just a couple of little tokens. This is the brand new Bay Area Storytelling Festival 2024. Oh boy, booklet.
You'll be hearing more about that, folks.
And we have a little something for you.
Oh, a little something.
Hey.
Oh, flowers on the inside and outside. Okay, Mimi, you're gonna have to help me figure out where to put yours. Can you almost taste that color? Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thank you,
so
thank
much.
you. So I'm gonna put this down so I can get the hug.
All right.
I love hugs.
Thank you,
Sarah.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
I'll get that out of your way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so
Here, let me take that for you,
here you go.
she's gonna tell us
I
the
just
story.
want to add that our biggest problem with this regional gym presentation was to get Jean out of her shell.
You can do it. You can.
She skulks away.
Even though it's her day, she asked me to tell a little story, so I'm so happy to do that. It was a beautiful day, and the young farmer headed into the barn to do the final check of the bales of hay that would be picked up in the next day. And as he always did, unconsciously, an unconscious habit, he tapped the pocket on the front of his overalls to feel that watch, that pocket watch that had been handed down from his grandfather to his father and now to him. He went into the barn, the bales were set. It was a good working farm, again, 3 generations. They grew hay to feed the animals for the people nearby. So tomorrow, the folks were coming to take the hay down to distribute it. So the bales were set, the air was still filled with that hay mist, sort of, and he was very pleased with what he saw. So he started out of the barn, and he did his unconscious check, and it was gone. The watch was not in its pocket. He panicked. It's gotta be here. I felt it when I came in. He looked on the floor, he looked on the bales, he looked behind the bales, he looked in the corners. He couldn't find that watch. And I want to tell you that he remembered so clearly the stories that his father told about his grandfather, his father sitting on his father's lap, hearing stories and resting his head on the chest of his dad and the grandfather, listening to that little tick, tick, tick of the clock, of the watch. He had that same memory. He used to sit on his father's lap, and his father would read him stories before bedtime, and he put his head there and do that little tick, tick, tick of that watch, and now it was gone. He couldn't find it anywhere. So he went out of the barn, and there were some children playing in the field next door, and he said, "Can you help me? Can you please help me?" And they came over, and he said, "I've lost my pocket watch. I know it's in the barn. Can you help me find it?" "Oh, sure." So they all ran in, and they ran around, and they climbed on the bales, and they looked on the floor, and looked in the corners, and looked in the bales. They couldn't find it either. They came out and told him, and he said, "Well, thank you for trying." And he was not sure what he was going to do. Then one little boy came back and he said, do you mind if I go in and look by myself? Please, help yourself. So the little boy went into the barn, and it wasn't very long after that when he came out and he said, is this what you're looking for? And there was that pocket watch. The farmer was delighted, and he took the watch and he said, how did you find it? And the little boy said, I went into the barn and I sat down and I closed my eyes and I listened. And I could hear a little tick, tick, tick. So I knew right where I had to go to pick it up for you. Well, the farmer was overjoyed, thanked him so much, put it in that pocket and snapped it shut. And again, it was a beautiful day. And now, our featured event, Jean Ellisen.
I did something just a little while ago, I broke my leg.
Oh,
Do you know where that expression comes from? Break a leg? Theater, right. If the audience responded to your performance, instead of applauding them, you would respond to them by breaking your leg.
no.
That's a little tidbit.
Wow.
We've all had some weather, haven't we?
Yeah.
A lot of weather. I have a little thing about weather. Whether the weather be fine or whether the weather be not, whether the weather be cold or whether the weather be hot, we'll weather the weather, whatever the weather, whether we like it or not.
It's kind of a pocket story. You put it in your pocket at home with you.
I want to tell you a story about my Nana. Now, when we were growing up, we didn't think to ask our parents or our grandparents to tell us what it was like when they were growing up. So when I was working with the second graders in the schools, that was kind of my mission, was to try to enable those kids to know the kinds of questions that could possibly get a story about where they come from. And so this is a story about my Nana. And with regret that I never got a chance to ask her the questions I always wanted to. Well, didn't know I wanted to at the time. My Nana, Lyda Joyce Evans, was born on the Bonnie Doon Ranch outside of Castro Valley. And she was a pioneer kind of a woman. She went to Hayward High School in Horse and Buggy. She made her own ketchup. She made her own dog food. She was widowed when my mother was still in school, so she had to provide for herself and her daughter, my mother. So she had a kennel that people would take their dogs to when they were going on a trip, just like we all need to do once in a while. And she took such very good care of them. She, like I said, she'd make their dog food, the gushy stuff. Great huge cauldron on the stove in her cozy kitchen in Hayward. Horse meat, that was big then. And she would have a big spoon and she'd put me on a stool so I could stir the pot of dog food. And I could help her feed the dogs, and it made me feel really important. And I must have been 5, 6 years old. One day I was stirring the pot and she said, "Jean, you know how to do it. How would you like to feed those dogs all by yourself today?" And I said, "Really?" Wow, she was entrusting me with this important job. I was just...
So together we took that big pot of stew out to the back stoop and down the stairs into an awaiting radio flyer wagon. I took the handle, I said, "Bye now." And I started up the dirt path back to the kennel. Now the kennel was way far in the background, and the kennel was nice. Each dog had their own room with a little tag of their name, and when they came and when they were leaving, how much to feed them, and any cautions that needed to be observed. As I was going down the path with that wagon full of stew for the dogs, she called out to me, "Jean, hey, wait, just a minute. There's a new dog in number 7, and he's not to be trusted. In fact, he's mean. So what I want you to do, listen carefully. Are you paying attention? Listen carefully. I want you to put the kibble in the bowl, put the stew on top, just like it says on the little tag on the door. And then open the door to number 7, put it in and take your hand out and close the door." Right, okay, Nana, got it. No problem. All along the path toward the kennel, I was saying, number 7, number 7, number 7, number 7. Well, there was an aisle down the middle of this old barn that was converted into a kennel. And there were dogs on one side and dogs on the other. They all had an individual run. They could go outside and converse with the other dogs. But even though they barked, it didn't disturb anybody like it might here in Berkeley. So I did all the dogs on one side. I came around. Oh, I just couldn't go right to number 7. I was going to save him for last. Every dog was fed. Still plenty of food. And I looked on the tag on his door, and it said, 3 scoops of kibble and 1 scoop of stew. So I went, and there's a little window that I could see inside his room, and I said, "Hello, Brutus. I brought you your supper." I didn't hear anything. No barking, no charging the door. Quiet. I said, "I just can open the door and I get your dinner for you." So I opened the door and I looked in, I looked around. I didn't see any vile, wicked, terrible, dangerous dog. And I said, "Brutus, you, I brought your supper." Nothing. So I closed the door behind me. And I was looking for Brutus. Because if he hadn't come charging out at me when I first came in, he's gonna be a breeze to make friends with. So I walked over to the little cutout door that went to his outside run, and I got down real low and I said, "Brutus, I brought your supper." Nothing. But then I heard him. And he was growling in that low, growly voice that you really don't want to hear. And he came in, he was showing me all of his teeth. And I said, "Kimosabe," that's the only word I understand. "Kimosabe, Brutus, I'm your friend, I brought you food." He wasn't having it. He was coming right for me. He came right up to me and I'm going, "Ugh." And then he turned and went over and sat right in front of the door. My only way out. Brutus was a lot smarter than I was. I was trapped in number 7 with this dog, looking at me hungrily. Okay. Good dog. Nice dog. Nice dog. Good dog. Look, you forgot to notice your dinner over there. Oh, and that little cutout door that goes out to the outside run. I made my whole body through there just like that. Out to the outside run, and chain link fence is higher than I could imagine. And I started climbing up that fence. Brutus was right behind me. Oh, Brutus, oh, Brutus, Nana, Nana! Yelling Nana at the top of my lungs. Brutus is not giving up. He's going for my feet. I get as far up as I possibly can, and I'm hanging on for dear life, and Brutus is persisting in being a very, very furious dog, scary dog. And I kept calling to my Nana, and then I saw the top of her head over the bushes. She had long gray braid that was wrapped around on top of her head, and when she came around the corner and came right up to the other side of the fence that I was hanging on to for dear life. Help! And she said, only way out of there, Jean, is up and over. So I got it out, I swung one little leg over, and I hung on to the fence going down, and I went down. She had brought a ladder with her, actually. She put it up against the fence, and oh, there's Kirk. I started down the ladder, and I was so relieved and so grateful and so thankful that my Nana was there to save me, and I just became a part of her in an embrace. And she calmed me down. I said, blubber, blubber. Oh boy, I'm so glad you heard me yelling, Nana. I was so scared. I'm sorry I didn't pay attention to you. And she patted me on the head and said, I didn't hear you, Jean. No, you know, our house is so far away, I never even hear the dogs barking. And I looked at the clock on the kitchen wall, and I thought, sure it's taken that girl a long time to feed those dogs. I never get the ladder. And that's my story, and part of a love story to my Nana. I want to share a story that I used to love telling at the Asian Art Museum, and I told it to so many schools, children, as well as a Corlander collection of stories from Korea. And I don't know, I could have a really squirrely class, and when I ended with this story, they were really quiet. They really paid attention. So this is a story I want to share with you. It's called The Tiger's Whisker. Long ago, in a far-off village in Korea, there lived a young couple. They lived on a small farm, small plot of land. They lived simply, but they lived well, and they were happy. They helped neighbors, the neighbors helped them. It was a real community. But a terrible war broke out, and all able-bodied men were called off to fight in the war. Well, that left her alone on the farm. She managed quite well. And unfortunately for many, but fortunately for her, her husband returned. But when he did, he was a changed man. He didn't laugh, he didn't joke, he didn't help out around the farm. It was like he had this horrible, big, dark storm cloud on his head. He didn't say nice things to her. There was no teasing, no jokes, no fun. A woman, a neighbor in the village, suggested that there was a hermit that lived way up in the hills. And if you go and are nice to the hermit, he might be able to make a potion to cure your husband. Well, she thought, I've tried everything and nothing seems to work. I might as well try the hermit. So early in the morning, she walked up to the hermit's hut, and it was a long walk, it was an strenuous walk. And she got to the hut, and it was a small, really strange looking hut. And she knocked respectfully on the door, and the hermit opened the door and says, "What do you want?" I heard that you could make a potion, that you're good at making potions. And you see, my husband went away to war, and when he came back, he was so changed. He was mean, he was angry, I've tried everything to cure him, to bring him back to who he was when he went off to war. Can you make a potion? He said, "Come back tomorrow," and he closed the door. Whoa. She did as she was told. She went home. The next day she went back to the hut. This time, a little more assertively, she knocked on the door, and the hermit opened the door and invited her in. Well, it was a one-room hut, and in the center of the room was a fire pit. And this is where he probably did his cooking, kept the house warm, and also probably where he would make potions. So she was feeling a little bit more optimistic. And she said, "Can you make a potion to cure my husband? Can you? And he looked at her and said, "Well, I could do that. I could make a potion to help your husband. But I need the key ingredient from you. I'll do anything," she said. And so he told her that in order to make the potion to cure her husband, she would have to bring the whisker of a living tiger. That was her response. "You want me to do what?" "No way. I couldn't possibly do that." "Well, if you want a potion to cure your husband, you certainly will. So, away with you." And he discharged her as she went home. Not real happy. She got home, and it was just going around in her mind, in her head, and how can I do that? That's impossible. And then that night, it came to her like in a dream. And the next morning, she got up, she went into the kitchen area, and she got a bowl and put some rice in the bowl and some meat on top of the rice. And she carried that bowl up the mountains, over boulders and streams and rocks, around trees, and up she went into the mountains until she came to a clearing, and she could tell on the side of the mountain, there was a cave. This must be where a tiger lives. So carefully she put the bowl down, and then she ran and she hid behind a tree. And she was holding her breath, trying to be invisible, as she heard the tiger emerging from the cave with a heavy padding of its feet. Went right up to that bowl, put his head down, and looked around, kind of in the direction where she was hiding. Look, there was something else. But this looks good. So he puts his head down and he eats every morsel of rice and meat, cleans the bowl, and then stretches like cats do after a good meal. He kept looking in the direction of that tree where the woman was hiding, and turned around and padded back into his cave. When it was completely silent, she quietly went up and picked up the bowl and ran home. Ran all the way home. Oh, she did it. The next day, she did the very same thing. She took the bowl, put some rice in there, put some meat on there, and did the whole journey all over again. Up into the mountains, up into the mountains to that clearing in the cave where a tiger did indeed live. And this time she moved that bowl just a little bit closer. And then she ran and hid. And she held her breath. And she heard the tiger's heavy footprints. She could hear it. Oh. And as she was holding her breath, and the tiger was looking in that direction. Oh, but that looks more interesting. And he bent down and he ate the whole, everything, every morsel of rice and meat. And then stretched, like tigers do after a good meal. All cats do. She waited till he was back in the cave, all was quiet. She picked up that bowl and she ran home. She ran all the way home. She did this every day for 2 weeks. The same path every day. Rice and meat in the bowl, hiding behind the tree. But this one day, she had inched her way closer to the entrance to the cave as she progressed. But this day she walked right up to the entrance to the cave. She put the bowl down and she stood there. She stood there. She could feel the air being pushed out of that cave. She could feel the earth moving under those heavy paws of that tiger. She could smell his breath. The tiger appeared, first the head and then the shoulders and then the part of his body. He came out of the cave and he looked down at the bull and then he looked up at her. Curiously. And then he bent down and he ate every morsel of rice and meat in that bowl. And then he started to stretch. And then he sat down right in front of her. She put her hand on the top of his head and said, "Uncle Tiger, I've come to ask you a very big favor. You see, my husband went away to war, and when he came back, he was so different. He was angry all the time, and the hermit said he could make a potion to cure him if only I had a whisker from a living tiger, and that's why I'm here. Uncle Tiger, can I have a whisker?" And the tiger looked at her, just looked at her. She took a small pair of sewing scissors out of her pocket, and she held the scissors in one hand and put her hand on the tiger's head, slipped down on his face, grabbed one whisker, and carefully snipped it from his face. She had it. She thanked the tiger. It means more than you have any idea. I thank you. The tiger got up, stretched, as tigers and cats do after a good meal, and padded back into his cave. She got her bowl. She had the tiger's whisker. She ran all the way home. She ran all the way home. But it was too late to go to the hermit's house that night to give him the whisker to make that potion. So she sat up all night holding that whisker for fear of dropping it. And at first light, she went up to the hermit's house, and this time she didn't just, she went boom, boom, boom on the door. And the door opened, and there's the hermit. I said, "What do you want?" I said, "Ooh, ooh, look, I've got the whisker. Now you can make the potion to cure my husband." "Well, then you better come in." ticket in his his fingers and he looked at it and said, well, it looks like a whisker from a living tiger. Well done. And you did this all by yourself? Yes, sir, I did. Well, very good. And the fire that was burning in that fire pit, he reached over and dropped it into the fire and it went. What have you done? You have no idea what I went through to get that tiger safe. And now what? And then this kind of cold-hearted hermit put his hands on her shoulders and patted her respectfully and said, you know, if you show your husband the same patience and love that you showed that tiger, that he allowed you to get close enough to it to get that whisker, your husband will be cured. Don't you worry. You need nothing from me. And still in disbelief over what had happened, she left thinking, oh, but you know, in time, it was true, because every day her husband changed a little bit. He started helping out again around the farm. He even had a couple of jokes to tell, and the neighborhood, even though it was smaller now, was a tidy community again. And it was all because of a little whisker and a great big tiger. How are we doing time?
You got it, however long.
Well, holy moly. I was walking my dog, not the dog I have now, or the last dog I had, but the dog before that. And I was thinking about stories, and going to the schools and telling stories. And I was thinking of fairy tales, and what could I do to a fairy tale? The master regenerator of fairy tales is right there, Tim. I couldn't possibly compete with that. But I started thinking about, okay, if I were to revise a tale that's familiar to people, let's see. I started to mull it over in my mind, and it started to click, and I couldn't wait to get home, start writing it down before they went poof. And so this is my version of the Three Little Pigs. But it requires help from the audience. And it has a chorus, and the chorus is real simple. You're going to catch on really fast. It goes like this. Boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. That's your part. So let's practice. Don't be shy. Come on, Azula. Boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. Boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. Boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. Perfect. Because I want to tell you my story of the Three Little Pigs. Left home one day to find new digs. The first little pig, he hadn't got far. He decided that he'd build his house of straw. Boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. He sat on his porch and he said, I'm through. But the big bad wolf was having a pie, and he saw that piggy on the porch, and he said, my oh my. Well, this part of the story you may already know. That house of straw, it went with one blow. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. A boop boop didum dadum wadum choo. That little piggy flew and flew and flew. Well, his brother's house was in a terrible fix. So the second little pig, he built his house out of sticks. Right. he hammered a branch and he fastened a bough and it's that's good enough for now. Boop, didn't that one chew, a boop, boop, didn't that one chew, a boop, boop, didn't that one chew. That house of sticks flew and little piggy too. Now, the third little piggy, she was clever and smart. She saw those sticks flying and she thought, state of the art. Stone and brick, cement and glass. She built her home that would last and last. Boop, boop, didn't that one chew? A boop, boop, didn't that one chew? A boop, boop, didn't that one chew? No harm could Wolfie do if he blew and blew. But the big bad wolf, he was a macho guy. And he saw this as a challenge and he decided to try. Well, he huffed and he puffed, and he blew and he blew. He huffed and he puffed and he blew and he blew. Ooh! Well, he finally gave up because that was all he could do. Boop, boop, did that one chew. A boop, boop, did that one chew. A boop, boop, did that one chew. That's the end of the wolf. And my story too. I think we're ready for some questions and answers.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, okay, all right. So now it's our turn. If you have questions or comments or thoughts that you want to share with Jean.
Or any of us.
Or any of us.
We have some other former
folks too.
regional gems.
Right. So Ed, go ahead.
So last year at the Bay Area Story Jam Festival, Jean, and she's gonna do it this year, ran the raffle. And I saw this dragon, this one here, there, and I bid and I bid, and I just kept bidding until I got this thing. And she told me this was her dragon. She used it with kids all the time.
Hey, would you go up onto the stage so everyone can see? On the stage.
Huh?
Would you go up for the live stream?
I'll take it, put it on the, you can be part of our centerpiece, Draggy, come on back.
Nice.
You missed me, right?
So my
missed you, Gene. Where have you been?
so my question to you is,
but you know, boy.
how did you use it with kids? What did you do?
Well, I told dragon stories from different cultures. I'm not going to tell any of those today, but I certainly have. Oh my God, look at, he looks just like how my dog looks at me when he's hungry. Isn't he lovely though? Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
There we go.
Where's he from?
Well, I use this now, and this is now Gene the Dragon.
Gene the Dragon. Oh, I think he's enjoying this very much. Look at that mouth. And look at the golden horns. I love it. I love it.
Jean,
Thank you, Ed.
how did you get into storytelling?
Well, Rolly and I had to go to a principal's conference at one of Jason's schools. And when we walked in there, full of apprehension, I saw on the wall one of the storytelling calendars that Ruth Stoddard used to do.
Oh.
And I walked right over to it. And I said, whoa, that's cool. And she said, yeah, Ruth, that's one of her calendars. And she teaches courses at Dominican College, now Dominican University, and on storytelling, how to be a storyteller. And I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. So I contacted Dominican College and signed up for the coursework, and after 2 years, I guess, of taking classes and all kinds of classes. Did anybody else go to Dominican? Yes, yes. You did too? You raised your hand, I thought, whoa! So, yes, I graduated from the program, and that's how I got started. And then I heard something about the Asian Art Museum. And the Asian Art Museum was putting out a call for storytellers to tell stories to second graders because there were the docent program, but that was for an older age. And why not? Second graders, as I learned, are like sponges.
Yes.
And they love stories. And so I started telling stories. I got in one of the first programs at the Asian Art Museum and collected all the, Helen Mary Stein and I collected all the stories that the storytellers could choose from to tell at different places. And we started in the Hindu gallery. Oh, my favorite gallery. Those magnificent statues that are so ancient. But the stories are older than that, and the statues were created to keep those stories alive. So there was, a lot of heart in that. And I did that program with the exception of at least one Fulbright teacher exchange with my husband and the Peace Corps. So I had a leave of absence for a couple of those, but I think 15 years in all, I was telling stories at the Asian. And that was a really good place to go. I remember a Sunday, they had a Sunday program too, and at the old museum, which I loved, the new museum for me is cold. The old museum was intimate, and you really felt there when you were there instead of cold, industrial. Anyway, that's off the topic. Oh, the mind does wander. Anyway, I would go there and stand at the steps that led up to the Hindu galleries, and on Sundays, free storytelling on Sundays. And there was this great big huge man wearing Bermuda shorts, military style, and he was the only person to show up for stories. And I kept looking for parents with kids, like second graders, third graders, I didn't care. Anybody other than a great big huge Marine dude. And so nobody else showed up. So I said, if you can just transform your spirit to a third grader, we're going for it. And up the stairs we went, and he just had the best time. So those are just some tidbits about the Asian. But after that, I worked in the schools for 15 years. Second graders, my wheelhouse. Did you kind of get the second grade vibe in my stories? It brings out the kid in me, which is what I really like. Anybody else have a question? Comment? Kirk! Hi, Kirk! Hey, Kirk. Gosh, it's good to see you.
Good to
Another
see you too.
regional gem has arrived. And you're here and you can see us super low and misty.
So I don't have a question, but I have a comment, a nice memory that I want to share.
Good.
Go on up here, Kirk.
Come on up here.
So
Yes,
you can be on the
please.
live stream.
Never mind.
Oh, he's very shy.
Like you.
That thing isn't gonna hurt you, Kirk.
All right, so what I want to share, just a nice memory that I love about Jean and her storytelling is she doesn't have an on-off switch. You know, like a switch. I don't think she doesn't have an off switch. She doesn't have an on-off switch.
Well, that's not what my teachers always say.
Because sometimes, we perform, we get up. She's always fun, always zany, always compassionate, always just really genuine in her personality and in her storytelling. It's a very thin, if any, transition. And I've always thought that made your storytelling so authentic, because it's you, and I love that. And just another memory I just want to share way back in the days, in the SAC days, when we have the meetings at her house, and my kids were so little, and she'd have to let them go up in the room and play Legos. And they don't remember everybody. Sorry. They remember her. They remember her, and it's so nice to see you all too growing up. And now one's about to graduate college, and the other one's a theater ranger in college.
How come you don't age?
She's still a storyteller.
can't remember their name.
Thank you, Karen, for bailing me out there. You know, gray matter kind of turns to different colors. Mimi and Francis have these two beautiful children, Esibolo and Mesty. And when they were first here, they didn't have any English. They came from Ethiopia. And so little holes barred, I took it to the library to hear some stories. And they loved it, and Kirk was telling stories, and they always remember Kirk. And every time I talk to Kirk, he says, "How are the kids?" Wow, that's the kind of guy he is. Thank you so much.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I really,
Stand up, Barbara, there's a live stream, we'd love to see your lovely face.
Oh.
Pressure's on, Barbara.
I'm kind of stiff today.
No, sorry.
Did my exercise.
I'll hold you up.
Hurting everywhere. So anyway, Jean, I was looking for a storyteller, for Lincoln Elementary School. And she came, I'm with Stage Bridge, and Jean worked with me for a number of years. And the teachers now, every time I run into somebody, they go, "How's Mrs. Ellison?" She's fine. So, thank you.
Still up to trouble.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much.
I have to say something about Jean. We all know Jean has a spark. Maybe it's that inner second grader.
Yeah.
But when I met you, I didn't know there was an inner second grader. I wasn't sure why you had that twinkle in your eye. And why.
It's in the genes.
Yes, yeah. Maybe it was just a love of story. But I remember we were working on the Bay Area Storytelling Festival, and somehow we got on the topic of, how do you know you have a good life? Well, what is it when you have a lot of stories, when you have a lot of friends, when you have a lot of money, when you have a lot of brains, when you have a lot of heart? And we were talking and talking and talking. We would not stop. And all of a sudden, she says, we've been talking for hours, Tim. I'm really hungry. I said, well, let's go get lunch. And we went to a nearby restaurant, and the waiter knew you. And the waiter's like, Jean, good to see you. You have to have the special of the day. It's a platter of fish. And Jean's like, I don't know if I could eat a platter of fish. She's like, no, you can share it. And I said, that's fine with me. So we sat down, we kept talking about what does it mean to have a good life. And we were talking and talking. Is it about being smart? No, it's about being compassionate to people. No, it's about telling stories. No, it's about being generous. We kind of landed on, to have a good life, you gotta have three things. You gotta have an inner second grader. You gotta tell stories. And you gotta be generous. You gotta offer things to people and be of service to others. And then the fish came, and it was a huge platter of fish, and there were two pieces. There was one big fish. Remember that, Jean? There was one big.
It's just good memory.
Yeah. And then there was one little piece. But there were two pieces, and there were two of us. And so you reached over, and you took that big piece, and you put it on your own plate. It was just a little one there.
Oh, I hate it when you tell your story about me.
And I said, Jean, I know you have an inner second grader, but we also just talked about being generous to others and giving to others. And you said, what's the point? It's lunchtime, I'm eating. And I was like, you took the biggest piece for yourself. And you said to me, Tim, what would you have done? And I said, well, Jean, if I'm thinking of others, I would have taken the big piece and offered it to you and kept the little one for myself. And you looked at the little one and you handed it to me and said, there you go.
Oh, man. I know. Anybody else have favorite roast, Jean? We got barbecue sauce over here.
Any other memories, any other thoughts, any other stories at the moment? Well, we still have time, and what I'm going to say now is, Jean, thank you so much. You are awesome. fabulous, and couldn't be a better regional gem this year. We're so happy that you are here and still telling us stories. So thank you so much. So thank you so much. So I'm going to suggest that I know several of you have some announcements to make, and then if we have time that we can stay, we can also chatting with Jean, the snacks that it brought. I also want to thank so much Claire Hennessy and Mark Hennessy for all the work. And Tim Araneta and Claire Hennessy for all the refreshments here. And I suspect they don't want to take a lot home, so hopefully you're going to be partaking. But at this point, is Rupa, do you want to talk about the Women's Festival event?
Then I'm gonna sit down, because my legs hurt.
Hi everyone, here it is, the Women's Festival in Fairfax, Virginia is coming up, starting on March 14th. Linda will be on that panel, on the virtual panel on the 14th. And then we have the program start on Friday evening. Claire and I will be there in person, Claire Hennessy. And I can't wait, I know she's going to be really funny.
No pressure, right?
And hopefully I won't get, I won't feel nervous because she's going to be there cracking us up. So, so we are telling on Friday night, Saturday, when do you tell?
2 o'clock.
Okay, I'm with you.
Oh, yeah.
We are like twins, we go together. Saturday as well as Sunday evening I'm on again. When are you on Sunday?
Last show.
Not sure. Okay.
So we're together, aren't we? California's together.
The good news is you don't have to travel there paying last minute, high fares. You can get a virtual ticket and you can watch either live streamed or you can watch, I think for the next month, they give you a link, you can keep watching. And the producer, Jessica, and her team are doing a really good job as they have in the past few years. So I think you'll enjoy it, even if you get a virtual ticket, and you can still support us. So here it is, feel free to grab one on your way out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Claire and Linda, you want to come up and talk about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival?
Yes!
Please.
Oh, yes. Oh, that one. Yeah, especially if you're not feeling like you don't want or can't travel up to Santa Rosa for the festival this year, please come to our Legends in the Living Room. It's a fundraiser for the festival, and it's going to be actually at my house again. But we have Sheila Arnold and Diane Ferlot this year, so it's going to be a really wonderful.
April the 6th. There's going to be fantastic food. I can't think of where that's coming from, but it is going to be coming from somewhere.
Shaz is actually going to make paella, which is
Oh.
he's been telling us for years and years and years that he's going to make. So finally he's going to make that, and we're going to sell it. Lots of other things too. Yeah, so you don't want to miss it.
So that's a fundraiser for the Bay Area Storytelling Festival, which is going to be the first weekend of May in Santa Rosa at this fabulous new theatre, only just been built, so fancy that every seat has its own air conditioning control.
Wow.
Really comfy seats. So it's going to be lovely. We're going to live stream it on the Saturday. On the Friday we're having a free film. Kealoha is a slam poet coming from Hawaii. He's got this amazing film, The Story of Everything. That's free. And then then after that in the evening, just for adults only, we're having sunset stories overlooking beautiful hillsides, wine, beer, lovely food, gorgeous stories. And then Saturday we've got a full programming with all these lovely stories. There's Kealoha, there's Brandon Spars, there's Diane Ferlat again, Karen Amano and Jean Tagman. And they're all going to be telling stories. Jean's going to bring his raven outfit, which he's not going to do for that much longer, so don't miss that. There's workshops, there's open mics, there's youth telling, you name it. Come along.
You can also buy a virtual ticket.
Yes, you can buy a virtual ticket, and it'll be the main theatre is being live streamed all day. Everything else will be recorded, and you can watch it for at least 2 months. So plenty of time, and I never have to cut anybody off. So it'll be wonderful, so come and see it. It's only up in Santa Rosa. Fantastic place to have for a weekend anyway. Think of all that wine tasting and museums you can do. And then, if not, we'll live stream it. Okay?
If people want to take postcards to some.
Yeah. All the information's on the table, come and help yourself. Thank you.
And if you have places that you can take postcards to me, so other people can know about it too, that would be helpful.
Yes, spread the word.
We're getting sponsorships together too, any ideas about who could help sponsor a teller or be part, so hopefully we'll see all of you there. Ed has an announcement, and then Jean, and maybe there are other folks as well.
Next Saturday is the second Sacramento Valley Storytelling Festival, put on by the Sacramento Storytellers Guild. And last year we featured Claire and Corey Rosen, and this year we have Kurt Waller and Joel Ben-Izzy. So it's going to be a great festival. From 11 to 12, Willie Claflin and myself are going to put on a children's concert for preschool and elementary school children with storytelling, puppetry, singing, dancing. And then from 12 until 5:30, we have the feature. Joel's going to do a workshop from 12 to 1, and then Kirk and Joel each have a half-hour performance. Then we have 6 regional tellers. We've got an open mic, and then Kurt and Joel come back and finish it off with a half-hour each again. So, and you can cover any parts of it. The children's concert's $10. The whole festival, even the children's, is $25. So it's very reasonable. It's in West Sacramento, so I just drove from Sacramento here. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive. It's in the community center, a nice room, and I'll put flyers up here. There's a children's part, and the festival itself.
Great, thank you.
In celebration of the vernal equinox, I am hosting again a story sharing picnic at Lake Gardens in Kensington. And that's on the 19th of March. Oh, one other thing, we have to spring forward tonight, don't forget.
Oh,
You know, I kind of ran out of steam there, but can I send you home with a little story for your pocket?
Yes.
Okay.
Once there was an elephant, and the elephant was walking down the path and stopped right in its path. There was a teeny tiny little hummingbird on her back with her feet straight up in the air.
What in the world do you think you were doing?
Oh, well, I heard that the sky is gonna fall today, so I'm gonna hold it up.
You with a teeny tiny toothpick legs, you're gonna hold up the sky.
The way I see it, if there's a big problem, everybody's gotta do the best they can, and this is what I can do.
Thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to ask the regional gems if you could come up and get a picture with everybody. I bet you have a chance now to talk with each other, with regional gems, with other folks, eat some food. And thank you all for coming. I'm so pleased that you come and honor Julie. Say again? Sorry.
And we're just going to say goodbye to everybody on YouTube.
Bye.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye. Thanks for coming.